All right, you grasshoppers, it's 11:30 or almost 11:30 here on Monday, the most popular 30 minutes and probably the world online.
Maybe the whole universe, actually.
And the good news, we got good news and bad news today. Mark has finally smartened up and put a New York Ranger hat on instead of New Jersey Devils garb. The bad news is there's no skin showing whatsoever, no muscle, no tan, anything like that. So for the people that join the show just so they can see that. Sorry.
I went to the gym this morning and I came home. I realized that my entire wardrobe is based upon either teams or guys I've coached. I'm wearing a Team Bracero, which was a fighter back in the day, a while back. And so all my entire, had it not been for my different activities with different organizations and West Point and Rangers, I wouldn't have any clothes to wear. Yeah. So
same thing with me with black t-shirts. So
yeah.
Same thing. So, Mark, as we've said so many times, there's a company called Patriot Training Systems. He's coached everybody from Navy SEALs, football players, hockey players, whatever it is, to those wonderful women to stay home and take care of the kids. Good to see you again, bud. How's your holiday weekend with Thursday and eating and all that?
Good? That was good. Thursday we were very quiet. We just went to our best brother Tom's house and had a quiet dinner, which was nice. And then Friday, I just did a bunch of working out and stuff. And then Saturday, we had our game. We had a game.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Warriors had a charity game against Newark Fire Department. It was well attended, and it was a fun time. Really good game. Everybody had a great time. And we actually picked up 3 more players because the Newark Fire Department had 3 guys that were veterans that are going to play for us now. So
very cool.
Worked out nice. Well. Yeah.
And that's the New Jersey Warriors team that you have.
Correct. Right? Yeah. New Jersey Warriors were disabled. We're a veterans team. We have sometimes we participate in disabled veteran tournaments, which requires the veteran to have at least a minimum 10% VA rating, which is pretty common actually, unfortunately. But anyhow, so it was a great night.
Is that how they do it? That there's like 10% like disabled? Is that?
Yeah. Well, to be able to participate in anything USA Hockey does, that's a disabled veteran tournament, you have to have a minimum 10% VA rating.
Right, and that could be mental or physical.
Yeah. So most of the stuff you'll see at 10% is like tinnitus in the ears from ordnance going off and things like that. Then you have the guys that are much higher level. Could be PTSD. Could be a TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury. That they're finding out, Tom, that I think we've discussed this, that in training and then in combat with all the different ordnance going off, they're getting very repetitive minor concussions that build up over time. So. And then the TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury, is one where they drive, unfortunately, over an IED and there's a very huge explosion, and that's bad news.
It is. It's interesting. You listen to a lot of people; they still think that a concussion only comes from a blow to the head, right? And a lot of people don't understand that your brain is kind of floating around and the fluid in there, and banging out on the side of it. It doesn't have to be a hit to the head; it could be like a whiplash kind of thing. So,
yeah. What will happen is when ordnance goes off, there's concussive waves.
Yeah,
and that can affect your brain.
So, I grew up in Brampton, Ontario. We got a person here, Murray Graham. Morning, Tom, from a cold morning in Brampton.
Boy. Yeah, it's that time of the year.
Brampton, Ontario. So Brampton is about 25 miles north. It's your dog. Brampton is about 25 miles northwest. I think northwest of Toronto.
Yeah. Brampton Battalion, right? In the OHL?
That's right. Yes. So when we sold our farm, my dad he was a district chief for the city of Brampton, in the fire department.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny because I talk to old people now and they ask where we lived or whatever. And it was one of those places where there was no names for the streets and everything. So Highway 10 went north. So if you were one road to the west, you were first line west. If you were one road to the east, you were first line east, and on and on. Like then there's 15 side road and all this kind of stuff. I guess more like the numbered streets.
Right. So, isn't Gretzky from Brampton?
He's from Brantford.
Oh, Brantford. That's right.
Brantford. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Very close. Yeah. Very close. We played against each other. He was I think he's 3 years younger than me. So we were like 15, 16 years old. He'd be coming up playing against us. And he already had this reputation of being this great player. We just tried to kill him. And nothing. I mean, you could get him sometimes with a hit, but even if you did, never stopped him. So it's interesting because he really wasn't like known as being a tough guy, like fighter. But he never.
I mean, what do you weigh when he played junior? About $140, maybe.
Oh no, if that, yeah,
if that.
Yeah, And again, they're it was way back in the 70s or whatever, so we just do whatever we wanted out there. It seemed like. And again, to his credit, never.
The first time I met him, I was like, wow, like,
yeah.
If you didn't know, maybe a tennis player, or, I mean,
yeah,
but
yeah, he had the huge butt and legs, right? And I think he purposely just said, listen, I don't use upper body muscles, so there's no use carrying it around. Yeah. So he just stayed really lean up top, and
it worked out well for him. He was pretty good.
I'll never forget too when he first came up. All the talk, he can't skate that well. He's not big enough. He doesn't have a good enough shot. I think it's a great lesson for kids, even if it's true. Yeah.
There's been a lot of stories like that. Guys are they get cut and then they come back and whatever. Yeah.
It is funny. So we're coaching this. I'm helping to coach this girls' high school team. So we just had our cuts on Wednesday. So we're down to our team now. So we had a meeting on Saturday or Sunday. We had a meeting, and somehow it came up about video. They said, "Oh yeah, coach, we watched your videos, your YouTube videos, all the fights you got in there."
Oh boy, teenage girls. Oh boy, you gotta explain. It was a different time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You're not gonna play like that. Funny stuff.
Good to see the Rangers. Well, they didn't get to play last night, but
the
Boston game.
Yeah, they've really played well. I think some of them. I mean, it's understandable. They still some young kids that need to get better, mature more. But the Shesterkin's so good in net, it just covers up.
Gives you a fighting chance right with the puck drop, and then Gauthier on Saturday. There was some. He really. There's some good signs there with this. With him. That was a great play to Panarin.
Yeah, man, was she flying down the wing too? How about Panarin throwing the glove at Marchand?
Yeah, well, Marchand's the kind of guy that could get you to do that. I think, at least, the difference. One guy, I don't want to, but Matt Cook, that guy used to make me nuts.
Yeah, I know,
because he was a hit and run guy. Like he never really stuck around to pay the price.
Exactly. Like again, like a Scott Stevens kind of guy had some heavy hits, but man, he stayed around and fought his own fights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're gonna live by the sword, you better be prepared to defend yourself against it.
So I want to get your opinion here. So obviously the Islanders missed a couple of games now because of the COVID. 8 or 9 guys on the team got it. And I had a discussion today with Kevin Allen on here about the upcoming Olympics. The fact that it's in China. And it was interesting. Some of the players, so I think, as you know, the players are the ones that are really driving this. The owners really don't care if they go to the Olympics or not. Actually, they'd rather them not go. But the players really like the activity. One of the concerns now is that China will be so strict that masks all the time, families can't go, that the whole Olympic experience that they're expecting just won't be there anymore. So
well, the problem is also, and the overarching issue is if you test positive there, it's a 21-day mandatory quarantine. So that you're talking almost a 3-week period that if you test positive, you can't leave China. So players are like, no way. There's no way.
They can't leave China?
Can't leave. No. You get test positive in China. If you test positive, they throw you into a quarantine hotel, and you don't leave that hotel for 21 days. You literally don't leave. Yeah.
So if somebody went all the way over there to play in the Olympics, got tested positive the first day, that's it for them. The Olympics are done.
Yeah, it's 21 days.
Oh,
so even imagine, let's say it's the last day of the tournament. You've been there 2 weeks, and then you test positive. You're there minimum 5 weeks.
So the star players will be over there. If that was to happen, they couldn't come back now. So their team, even though they're not injured, wouldn't be able to have that player in line.
Correct.
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah. A friend of mine actually lived in China for quite a period of time and came back right before COVID. He hasn't been back since. He needs to go back to get his stuff, his office cleaned out and whatnot, because he took another position. But the moment he steps foot in China, even without testing positive, he's quarantined for 21 days in this hotel. And
so how would they do that with the Olympic athletes going over there then?
I mean, in terms of initially going there, I don't know. I guess they're waiving that for the Olympic, I guess. But if you do test positive, it's going to be a problem.
So I guess then they're obviously quarantined in the Olympic Village. So that's the theory then.
I guess that's part of it. They maybe think they can control. Without that, there's no Olympics, because who's going to send a team over there to sit for 3 weeks in a hotel?
And then there's also the talk of why we're going to China in the first place with all the human rights.
That's another big thing. And that's where the NFL and the NBA are really dropping the ball, because they're very protective of that market, because it's a huge market. Yeah. So basically what you're telling the sports fan or the public is, we don't care. It's all about money.
As long as you make money.
Right.
Because there was one, so the tennis player, the female tennis player, had gone missing.
Yeah.
during that time, LeBron James, is very vocal with his views.
Yeah.
There's another basketball player, NBA basketball player, who's really getting on LeBron about not standing up.
Yes. Yeah. Tom, it's unfortunate now that a medical issue has become so hyper partisan and so hyper politicized that we've lost our perspective of what this is. It's a medical issue. Viruses don't care whether you're a Republican, Democrat, watch Fox News or CNN.
Yeah, I agree. How's your training going with all the boxers and all that kind of stuff? Got anything new going on or?
No, I mean, everything's pretty much back to normal in terms of being able to get into gyms and, talking about the COVID lockdown and everything like that. But yeah, it's all good. I just got another couple clients over the weekend. One's a female that's interested in self-defense and,
Nice.
Young girl. I think she's a college girl. So that's good because, my whole approach to that is, I can show you things, but the biggest thing is not to get in a situation where you're going to be compromised. Right. So that's part of it.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and actually he helped me train for Survivor. I think I mentioned it before, this Robbie Sherwood, great guy.
Yeah.
And he had trained in a New York sports club in the area here in Stanford, and they totally shut down now. So he's had to shift to more training at home, going to gyms and apartment buildings and stuff like that. And in some ways, he said it's better because obviously it's all, any profits he has now is all him. So it's like anything else, people adapt, right? If people still want to work out and trainers figure out.
I have a client this afternoon, young girl at 4:30, who's a high school field hockey player. And apparently she's pretty good. She plays at a private school. The name escapes me, but it's known as a female field hockey prep, pretty powerful team. Right. And I train her FaceTime because she lives probably close to an hour away.
Oh.
So her dad has a basement set up, and we just FaceTime it. And and that's the other thing. So Friday, what happened was about a year or so ago, Beth was saying to me that a woman she worked with in New York with Beth got transferred or took a new job in California. So she moved the whole family to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And her middle child, her boy, who was like 7 at the time, really equated moving there with the COVID lockdown. He thought back here on the East Coast was, life as usual. And then when he got there, all this happened. So he was acting out and they were having some issues with him. So I said, hey, Beth, maybe I could train him. We'll try FaceTime. It'll give him a physical outlet, which is what kids really need, especially kids that are kind of struggling with things. And flash ahead to now, we've been FaceTiming once a week. Mm-hmm. He went out, got him a bag, and he got gloves and hand wraps, and it's pretty good. And they came out for the holiday, and I got to physically meet the young man.
So you told me about this.
Yeah. So we went to the gym Friday. Went to the gym. We did a little pad work, and he's just like over the top. He's just so pumped up. Yeah.
Is he pretty good now too?
Pardon?
Is he a pretty good boxer now?
Yeah. You know what, Tom? It's amazing. Like, because you got to remember, he'll only be 8 years old in January, so he's a little guy. But he's putting combinations together. And at first, I thought, well, how much can we really accomplish on FaceTime? And maybe again. He's probably a visual learner,
right?
So it worked for him because we all, we learn either visually, tactile, or audible, or combination, a little bit of everything. He's pretty visible learner. So am I. Like, don't ask me to skate the drill. I want to watch 5 guys do it. Okay, I get it. You could draw it up 100 times on a board. It's all mumbo jumbo to me. I want to see somebody do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what are those 3 ways of learning? Say that again.
Visible, like you watch. So like me, I would have to watch a drill. Okay, now I get it. Audible, like you're told, you can process it, and tactile, which is hands-on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I never looked at that way.
So we all tend to lean more one direction or the other, or a little bit of everything. Like even when I learn something new in martial arts, when Royce, who you met, shows me something, I'll videotape him because what I do is I'll break it down into thirds. So I'll learn the first part of the movement, then I'll learn the middle part of the movement, and then I'll learn the end. And then I put it all together. And then I never look at the video again because I have it here. It's downloaded. Yeah.
It's right because now I'm back to coaching again. So it's interesting. You're setting up a new drill. You want to challenge the kids a little bit, right? To like not just the physical part of it, but the mental part. Like figure out the drill a little bit, right? So
right.
Get in detail, but they got to figure it out. Yeah. And it's interesting dynamic watching the kids, like the leaders, if they're good leaders, are really helping the other kids too, right?
It's interesting because especially. Given that I've coached at more amateur hockey than anything else with high school and travel and college, spent a lot of time learning how to teach, learning how to coach, and of course it's different now because kids are different. They're they're smarter than you in some ways.
Yeah,
they'll pick. Listen, they have their part of my French, but they have a pretty good bullshit meter. Like they can figure it out right away. Either you know what you're talking about or you don't.
Right,
And
totally.
if they think you don't, I don't care what you do, you're done. But so I think from what I've learned over the period of time is that when you're teaching, it's also good so the young lady or young man knows why they're doing it, how it fits into application. And it's the same thing when teaching boxing or anything else. I could show you a move. Now I show you the application. Why? So it's I think we mentioned this last week. It goes learn a skill, practice a skill, master a skill, functionalize that skill, which means put it into play, and then maintain it through practice. But
right. That is true. That's a really good part. I sort of interrupt you there, but that's really an important part of coaching, right? To get the players to trust that you really know.
Oh, absolutely.
Like have them do things that maybe they can't do initially. Then
Right.
you show them how to do it. You train with them, and then all of a sudden they're doing it. They go, "Wow, man, I can really do this now." Like coach really knows what he's talking about.
I'm gonna surprise you here, but I actually listened to what you say, and you told a great story about Ted. What was his name?
Ted Sater, the coach.
Sater.
Yeah.
Making you do these drills, and you get back in the locker room. You're like, "What the hell was that?" And then in one game, all of a sudden, you did it.
And I didn't really like him as a coach either.
Right,
so,
that's what I mean. Yeah. So there might have been a communication gap on his end where he should have said, "Tom, this is why we're doing this." But sometimes at the professional level, they think maybe I don't need to tell you. Or
well, you know what? To his credit, on that case, he really did communicate very well. Like it was this one-timer drill from behind the net, and I was never a guy that would even attempt a one-timer during a game.
Right.
But we did it repeatedly over and over, and we had a chance. I'll never remember. I think it was in New Jersey actually too that somebody passed me in front of the net and I scored. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that was Ted's goal. And again, I didn't I've criticized him many times, but he was responsible for that. So.
But it's true. So like, even when I'm teaching, working with my friends like Will and that, teaching tactical stuff, you have to explain, why you're doing something in a particular fashion and how it applies to, in their case, staying alive. Yeah. So
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So, and I won't mention the player, but on this team we're coaching now, there's a young girl, really nice person. But she seems to, and I want, first of all, there's a question here, and then maybe there's an answer. So sometimes people, either they don't want to listen to advice or their mannerisms make it seem like they don't want to listen to advice, and they really do. Do you agree with that? I think it's true.
Yeah. So usually what I would do when I got, especially a youth player, I would ask them, so let me ask you a question. What are you getting out of this drill? What are you not getting out of this drill? What can I make you? I can tell you that's going to make you understand why we're doing this?
Right.
It's much more hands-on than it ever was before. Because old school Tom, when you played, you did what you were told. You didn't question it. You just did it. But now, like I said, kids, because even at a young age now, because of social media and everything else, kids are running their own program.
Yeah.
And they're very leery of anybody. Not leery. They question everything, and that's a good thing. Right. It can be over questioned. But if I get a player that their body language is showing me, oh, this drill sucks, I don't know why we're doing this, I skate over to them, hey, what's going on? You like this drill? Put them right on the spot. You like this drill? And then they go, oh, okay, tell me what what are you getting out of it? What are you not getting out of it?
Right.
And kind of explain to them why you're doing it.
What about the person who at least gives you the impression that she knows everything already or he knows everything already? So you're going up to them, they didn't do something properly, you go to correct them, they go, oh, yeah, I know. It's like they don't.
Yeah. Well,
is that because they really think they really do know, or they don't want to be taught, right?
Well, and the old way, the old Mark way would be to embarrass them.
Right.
So come on up here, you run a drill. I want to see you run a drill.
Right.
That's not right, because then it's punitive.
Right.
What I would say is he or she, I'd pull them over and say, hey, can you give me a hand demonstrating this drill? It kind of gives them a little bit of currency, like, hey, the coach likes me. It values me enough to help him demonstrate a drill.
Good point. I like that.
Yeah.
So then they're more receptive next time. If they really don't know in the mind, you're coming to them with some advice, they're more receptive to listening to that advice. No, that's a nice idea. I like that.
Yeah, get them involved.
I didn't coach like that before. I was always, and the head coach, this Brooke Karen, who I coach with, she's very inclusive with the players, especially the captains, about helping them make decisions, asking their opinions and everything. And I was never like that before. When I coached, I said, nope, I'm the dictator. I'm coaching.
Right.
I don't want other people to think that they have some, say in what's going on here. They're going to listen to what I tell them, which was the old Herb Brooks way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Well, you know what it is too, Tom, when we're dealing with youth players in particular, I think we sometimes forget because we're so competitive and we're very, and you played at the highest level possible, that they may have an issue outside the rink going on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on in their life, especially high school kids. They get the dating thing going on, the social media, the pressure of social media, bullying, maybe schoolwork. Maybe there's something at home going on, like, unfortunately, it's divorce or something. So, when you're dealing with a professional player, it's a lot in that regards. It's easy. You don't have to worry about their feelings because guess what? Do it or you're not here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it's good that we're more sensitive to this more than ever before because it wasn't that way when you and I played.
I know.
There you didn't play.
I know. Yeah, it is true. It's almost like you feel sometimes like you're going to be softer because you care about feelings so much, but it's really not the truth, right? Yeah.
I remember vividly being a freshman in high school and I was small. I mean, I was so small, the bus kept going. I'd be the only one on the bus that would just keep going. I had to wear a number 2 yellow jersey because then it looked like the hard Ticonderoga, the number 2 pencil.
Yeah.
But I was frightfully small.
That's a bad joke. That's not.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
But I remember a coach giving it to the whole team, and he told me to stand up. I said, I am standing on the bus on the way back. This is it. That's all you get.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Somebody that needs help. So Vander Kane. Vander Kane, for anybody who doesn't know, was in the San Jose Sharks organization. Started off in Atlanta, had stops in Buffalo, and again now is in San Jose. Great player, big, strong guy, great skater, shooter. He's had some other issues in the past, smaller incidents when he was in Buffalo for a period of time. He had missing practice, gone out at night or whatever. But most recently, really got on the headlines because his wife made some claims that he was gambling on hockey games, NHL hockey games, had left the family. The home was getting was getting foreclosed, and he left and went on a trip to Europe. They're now getting divorced. They have small children. I believe she might have been pregnant again or whatever. Whole series of incidents that happened. He's filed for bankruptcy, all this stuff. So now San Jose has now put him on waivers and sent him down to the minors. So to me, the old Tom Laidlaw and probably the old Mark would have been like, this guy's a jerk. He's a bad kid. Get rid of him, whatever. There's obviously something going on there, right? And we don't know him. We haven't talked to him, so we don't know what it is. But it's like you just hope he gets some help at some point, right?
Yeah, I guess there's 2 things here. One is that in general, hockey people are hockey people. Yeah. We're not educated in any kind of therapeutic community environment. You even look at what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. With that whole situation, what happened in Hershey and the American League team. That coach has been indicted, by the way. Clark Donatelli was indicted, which is not good. But I think the problem here again is these teams, and it's not exclusive to hockey. I mean, football, baseball, basketball, they're not equipped to deal with these issues.
Yeah.
And their first response is, what can I do to help my team?
Yeah.
So the mental health part of it gets overlooked.
That is the truth, right? Like get rid of the problem.
Yeah, because we have to win games. I'm not getting paid here for therapy.
Yeah.
I spent a better part of 2 years with Theo, and he's very public with his struggles.
So just so everybody knows, that's Theoren Fleury.
Correct.
He had been sexually abused by his junior coach, Graham James, and actually that's the same junior coach that sexually assaulted Sheldon Kennedy that I represented as well. So,
and he had at one point or another, Theo sat on every chair on the Titanic deck.
Yeah.
Gambling, women, cocaine, alcohol.
Yep.
And I remember we were on the road and, he told me that he had been out gambling. There's another player I won't mention, but they seemed to know where every Indian reservation was in every city we played.
Right.
And, I said, Theo, I don't know if it's really a good idea. You're trying to, to be in that environment. His response, I have to have something.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at originally was that, friends and family and people I met, that guy's a jerk, he's making all this money. Why is he? I said, listen, you don't even know the guy.
Yeah, I
you
know.
have no idea what he's been through. Money is not the panacea to everything. It doesn't make the sexual abuse trauma go away.
Right. Nah, I agree.
Maybe it gives you money to get better therapy, but
And I realized that was this whole Sheldon Kennedy situation. That must have been, I'm trying to think how long ago. That must have been like
that was
25
a while back.
years. Yeah. And because I'd met him in Dallas Drake was a client of mine. He's playing in Detroit. I was living in the Detroit area. Sheldon was on that team. And I would see all the time he's getting in accidents with his motorcycle and drinking and driving and drugs and all this kinds of stuff. But when you met him, he was this fantastic kid. And you're like, what is going on? And when he first called me and asked me to represent him, I felt like it was my duty now. Okay, if I'm going to represent you, then I'm going to help you with all your stuff. And I said, well, we really need to clean up, the drugs and alcohol. And he was yes, and everything. And then it was, it must have been about 10 days or 2 weeks later that he called me and had told me about the sexual abuse. And it although I still at that point was totally naive in that subject, I feel much more educated about it now, but it kind of all fell into place. Like here, to a good example, like we don't know what's going on with somebody when they act out or act inappropriately or whatever. So,
well, a famous story that actually I was just talking to Colin White, a kid who played for New Jersey for a little while.
Big kid. He's a big man too.
He's an awesome dude. He really is. He's a newfie. He's just a great guy, man. He's just.
What does he do? Does he live in the area, right?
He's alumni with the Devils now. He's doing alumni.
Oh, okay.
Stuff. Yeah, and his kids are playing hockey for Montclair here in New Jersey.
Right.
They're both pretty good players, both AAA players, and they're huge like he. I mean, he's a big man.
He is, yeah.
So,
we played
a
couple of charity games. We played a couple of charity games.
Yeah. And he talks. We were having a conversation about Mike Danton. Mike Danton, who became. I'm trying to remember now. Was it Mike Jefferson became Mike Danton?
I think Danton was the player. He became Jefferson.
Jefferson. Yeah. And then then the craziness of where he tried to kill his agent.
Yeah.
And he got locked up he's out now, but he got locked up. But it just shows you how, Danton's story is you take a vulnerable young man, and whether it's a coach or an agent or anybody in their sphere of influence, when it means I want to get to the National Hockey League, I want to get to the NFL, I want to get to become whatever it is in life. It doesn't have to necessarily be athletics. Sometimes there's sharks out there that will seize an opportunity. They see a vulnerable young man or young lady, and they seize upon it. And in his case, it led to this, which was crazy. But there was a lot of, and I don't even know if that story was about sexual abuse. I think it was more about mental abuse.
Yeah, remember the agent was really had like the claim was he had control of his, weird. And wasn't the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that Sheldon Keefe, involved in that somehow as well?
I believe he was. Yeah, it's been a while because that goes back to like the 2001 or 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that story because Danton was playing in St. Louis at the time.
Right.
And actually one of my clients, Ryan Johnson, was a great guy, a real leader and everything.
Yeah, I remember him, yeah.
Kind of had a friendship with the kid too. So actually, it might have even been roommates. Or roommates on the road. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So when that all happened, they arrested Danton on the claim that he was trying to get his agent killed.
He started off here in Jersey. I think he was a second-round pick. He was a pretty high pick.
Right.
And he started here in Jersey, and Whitey knew him pretty well.
Right.
And so that's a crazy story. Off topic, but on topic. So there's a guy by the name of DJ Shipley. I actually sent you.
Oh yes, I didn't get to see that yet. Yes.
It's a long one. I watch, like when I get up in the morning, I do about 20 minutes with because it takes me that long. It's so intense just to kind of process what he just spoke about.
Right.
And I won't get into great detail, but one of the things he spoke about, and these really stuck out to me. The first one is reality becomes reality when it is reality.
Yeah. Meaning,
to me, like all this tactical training I do with military and law enforcement guys, mostly law enforcement, but even with coaching hockey or any sport, it's really important that we stick to game type conditions in our practice or with training.
Right.
Because we can set up stuff, but it's not reality until it becomes reality. So the closer your training can become to reality, the better you're going to be prepared mentally, for sure, when it becomes reality. And the second thing he said, which I write it down because it's so significant. Your standard is your standard until you exceed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when the collective, meaning a team, whether it's a Navy SEAL team or a hockey team or whatever team in work, when the team exceeds the standard, it becomes a dynasty. I'm like, wow,
interesting.
That is really good stuff.
And that is true, right? So like in the first part, I don't exceed your, like, you don't want to put limitations on yourself and then say, okay, I've got to the place I want to go. Now I'm going to stop improving, right? You want to always improve. That's, to me, that's like the same thing as saying, like, you're never going to be perfect because you may reach a certain point right now. Right. The next
there's another percentage you can improve. But I like it too, because, like sometimes we'll get complacent with what we're doing.
Yeah.
That standard will remain that standard until you exceed it. Now you have a new benchmark.
Yeah. That is true. Like, that's kind of like human nature, right? Like, you get to a point where you look in the mirror and you go, well, that's pretty good. And then you kind of stay there for a while. It's that person that realizes, okay, now that's like, I view Wayne Gretzky as that. Like, and I told you before that he and I both accomplished our goals. My goal was to play in the NHL. His goal was to be the best player that ever played in the NHL. And when I do things now, I've realized I'm now saying, okay, no, I don't want to be just good at it or whatever. I want to be the best I can possibly be that day, and then know that the next day I'm going to be pushing to get farther. Even the workouts and everything too, right? It's
sure. And I'll tell you, there was who was it now? Who's up and down with New York? Maybe it was Gauthier said, I need to get better every single day to stay in the NHL.
Yeah.
Every day I got it. And I kind of feel the same way. Like when I go with Royce and we do our Filipino martial arts, I love the fact that each time I train, I leave the building knowing something I didn't know when I walked in.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that only happens when you open yourself up to being receptive to that. And that's a really good example to say to that kid who thinks they know it all. No, you don't. No one does. Totally. In fact, there's a common, in the martial arts especially, they never say, if you're not learning, you're not teaching.
Right. Yeah. And it was the other one too. I think it's more of a military saying. The only easy day was yesterday.
Yeah, it's the SEALs. Yeah, that's right there in Bud's. And it's true. So Gauthier said it. He said, if I have to get better in practice every day to stay in the NHL.
That's a pretty good attitude for a young guy to have. Right? I mean, it's
great attitude.
It's great. Like you're in your 60s or something. You've learned a lot.
I don't think there's any limitations.
You learn what you don't know, right? When you're older.
Yeah. Well, there's another expression. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know a lot.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. We had a kid. Do you remember Rico Fata?
Yeah, I remember Rico. Yeah, he was supposed to be. He was a high draft pick.
He was number 6, and I think Malhotra was number 7 that year.
Yeah.
Calgary drafted him. He was the number 1 15-year-old in Canada at one point. So he was from the Sioux.
Yep.
Rangers get him on waivers from Calgary for $1.
Yep.
And he came in, and looking back upon it, I'm sure he wasn't happy that he got waived, but he came to New York, and he came in the room. I said, "We're weighing in today." He says, "Oh, I don't weigh in." I said, "Okay." I just kept walking.
He just got picked up on waivers.
Yeah. So now I'm weighing in Mark Messier, Hall of Famer. I'm weighing in Brian Leach, Hall of Famer. So get on the ice, and I said to the kid, I go, "Come here." I go, "When you're in Hartford tomorrow, that when you walk in the locker room, the scale will be on your right." Kyle skates over and says, "That is the best bitch out I've ever heard." I'm like, come on.
Let's go.
So
isn't it funny, right? And sort of, just so people understand, when you get put on waivers in the National Hockey League, that pretty much means that the coach has tried to trade you. Nobody wants you. So now they're throwing you out there to people to grab for $1. And then you walk in the locker room like that and say, "I don't work out. I don't weigh in."
Yeah. So, but to his credit, because he was a good kid. I mean, he was a young guy. I mean, he must have felt horrible that he got waived. He's probably angry. But being waived to New York Rangers isn't all that bad.
Yeah, totally.
So probably about a month into it, he skates up and he said, "Hey, Mark," I go, what do I need to do to get in this lineup?" Because he was a healthy scratch, one of the healthier guys in the league. Right. And I said, "Well, look, number one, be a little bit more receptive."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm not your head coach, but I'm here to help you, whatever it is." Right? I said, "Number 2, just keep working hard. Just keep working hard." And he got sent down and back and forth. Then he ended up signing with the Caps. He had a pretty nice career. I mean,
I remember him.
Because he's one of those guys who's a consistent, in the American League, could get 30 to 35 goals a year fast. I mean, really fast. But as you know, big gap between the AHL and the NHL. It's a huge gap.
And it's interesting because what happens to those kids in the minors or those goal scorers, they come up to the NHL and now they may be getting 3rd or 4th line duty, which isn't what goal scorers used to do. It's like if you're going to be a goal scorer, you got to be in the top 6 forwards. So that's really the rub for the goal scorers all the time, right? You better be able to play defense as well. If you come up
and that time and space is gone. It's no longer there.
Totally. Yeah. All right, there, big guy. Great to see you again.
Always, man.
I apologize to everybody that he's got a full shirt on, but he wore the Ranger hat, so we'll let him away with it. So we'll see Mark again next week. See you, everybody.
See you guys.